Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk about the degeneracy of determination of white dwarf mass using X-ray spectra. In fact, I'm going to talk about the degeneracy of all the parameters of those objects, but the white dwarf mass, I think, is the X-ray spectrum is used a lot for this kind of objects as a way to weight these objects. So first of all, as it was already said today, cataclysmic variables are a compact binary system in which a white dwarf accretes mass for a low mass companion, and the standard geometry of accretion is accretion disk. But in a magnetic cataclysmic variable, let's see if in a magnetic cataclysmic variable, the accretion disk, or at least near the white dwarf, we do not have the accretion disk. We have a magnetic accretion column. There are some systems in which we have an accretion disk, but it is truncate near the white dwarf. Okay. Okay. But the most important part of the entire system is the post-shock region that is created because the mass flow from the donor star to the white dwarf reaches supersonic velocity, then you have a shock, then you have a density enhancement, and this region dominates the emission of the entire system, in X-ray and also in the optical, especially in continuum, in optical. And many years ago, since many years ago, we know that the X-ray spectrum of magnetic cataclysmic variables is, can be used to determine the mass of those objects, because in the post-shock region, the gravitational energy is converted in thermal energy. So you have a very simple physical, how to say, equipartition. You have a mass transformed in temperature, and then if you have a way to measure the temperature, you have a way to determine the mass of the object. And as the X-ray emission comes from brainstallium, that's the main parameter is temperature. You have the X-ray spectrum, you measure the temperature, and okay, you have the mass of the white dwarf. And this is done a lot in the literature. This is just one reference, but there are many. The thing is a bit more complex because the post-shock region is not homogeneous in temperature. So in the post-shock region, you have a temperature profile, and the density is also not a constant. So you have to determine, to know these quantities to really calculate correctly the X-ray spectrum of those objects. Okay, so this is the introduction. So I'm going to present you what we have done in order to better or to contribute to this study. We have a code, it's called Cyclops, and it was developed in order to calculate the emission from the post-shock region. It is a 3D code in which we calculate the radioactivity transfer in the post-shock region. We have as emission mechanism cyclotron emission, brainstallium. Cyclotron is important to calculate the optical emission. And recently, Diogo Belloni has done a very important improvement in the code because he solved the equations that we use to determine the temperature and density profiles. So we have a 3D post-shock region with good, nice temperature and density profiles, and now you can, I think we have a good tool to calculate the X-ray spectrum of those objects. These are the equations, but I will focus here in the problem of the degeneracy of the X-ray spectrum. So this is from the Belloni's paper. Here you see one X-ray spectrum, and here you see 4 combinations of parameters that give you exactly the same X-ray spectrum. And then you can see that you can have very different masses. What is the right mass? Huh? It's a mess. So, of course, you have a lot of parameters. This is the model, because our code, we have physical parameters, we have geometrical parameters, and when you consider all of these, it's really difficult to arrive in a good or in a unique solution. Okay, so how to break the degeneracy? You can try to fit in absolute counts, not only the shape of the X-ray spectrum, and you can now count with more observational constraints, more data. So here we see the X-ray light curves, theoretical X-ray light curves that we got from our code, in which you see that a same spectrum can have different light curves if you consider, for instance, the self-eclipse of the pole shock region. But it's not the only thing that can introduce a variation in the flux width phase. It's very well known that there is the absorption. We have the pole shock region, and the pole shock region can cross the magnetic column depending on the phase. And when the magnetic column is in the direction of the observer, you have absorption. And in this direction, no. So with this variable absorption along the spin, the White Dwarf rotation can also introduce a difference or a modulation of the emission. So if you use the X-ray spectral, the X-ray light curves, you can maybe try to disentangle the problem. Oops, now I'm going to show you some new results using real data. So let's go to AM Hercules, the prototype of polar objects. This is a data set that from XMM. It was already published by Schoop 2 years ago. And here is the spectrum, the points, and here you see a lot of fittings. Huh? Choose one, huh? Choose which you like. Okay, to do this, we fix the White Dwarf mass and keep the other parameters free. You can have anyone, but this is, in this case, we are fitting only the shape. Let's try to fit the absolute count, because now you have Gaia, you have distance, you can calculate. Oh, no fitting at all. So here it's just an example. There are possible solutions for this problem. We know that IM Hercules has 2 pole shock regions, so it can be used. In this region, you have a line emission contribution that is not included in our code. We hope to have in this January. I'm working with Juan Luna, and we are trying to include it in the Cyclops code, the Apex solution for line emission and X-ray. And I think this will be very interesting, but if we have to understand better. But even in AM Hercules, it's not easy to understand and to explain the X-ray spectrum. This is another application in which we have, this is our data. We have X-ray spectrum. Oops, sorry. We have X-ray spectrum of XMM, and also optical light and polarization curves. So here we have the spectrum, very well fitted. This blue line is the spectrum without absorption, internal absorption of that you have in the system. And here we have the optical data. Let me explain. This is flux, how the flux vary with spin phase in 3 bands, V, R, and I. And here is the circular polarization. And believe me, it's a good model. Yeah, it's a good model because we are fitting with the same region, with same parameters, X-ray, optical polarization, flux, and in this case, we are fitting the absolute counts, so we are not fitting only the shape. I think it's we are finishing this work, and we have to check, but it seems that's a very massive white dwarf, about 1.3, and not only from this, but also from the polarimetry. If you use only 1 band, we have all a degeneracy. But when you try to fit 3 bands, we have to have a massive white dwarf. And as I like very much polarization, I grow up in science measuring polarization, and to understand this kind of objects is very nice, and it's very important to have simultaneous measurements. So you have beauty new instrument, and you had the first light 10 days ago, and I am tempted to show you this result. This is raw image. The instrument is Spark 4. It obtains 4 simultaneously images in 4 broad bands, G, R, I, and Z from this lower band. It's a relatively large field of view, but it's in a small telescope. But even so, we can go in photometer. It's a polarimeter, but it also works as a photometer. And we are very happy because of the quality of we are going to use a lot of this instrument. And that's it. So the point is, we have to, of course, you have to use X-ray spectrum to determine the parameters of these objects, but you have to have complete models that take into account all the complexity of the post-shock region, the geometry, and that is it. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Claudia. Sorry, I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Claudia Rodrigues. I'm a student at Caltech. This is really cool. I have one question, and I have 2 questions. Number 1, is Cyclops public?
It can be. It can be. Yes. It's not public because I don't know. It is in the GitHub. It is in the GitHub. But if I give you the GitHub, Diogo has prepared a first version of the manual of use. So I don't know if it's a good policy to put it, but I think it should be used. In fact, I would like to make it public, and I think people has to use the code and to find the problems and try to use, and you see, otherwise it's, so we can talk if you want to use it, of course I can, but I don't know if it's, in the first approach, it's possible only to use because it doesn't have a good
pretty enough for somebody else to use it.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, just a second quick question. It seems to me that the easiest test bed is to use eclipsing binary polars. So you can use the radial velocity measurements of the donor, include some K correction, something to check that. Have you tried that?
Yeah. In fact, there are 4 or 5 polars that have good measurements of mass, and IM Hercules is one of them. So, but the point is, shape of X-ray spectrum, degeneracy, and only X-ray spectrum, and absolute counts, we have a problem. So, in fact, it's an ongoing project. I think we have to use new star, because in new star we are get rid of absorption, line contribution, and maybe you can have a better sensitivity. It's a good, it's a better, because it goes to high energy. So you have a clear sign of the brainstorm emission in those objects. So, this is something that we should do, use a new star to make it. But we have all the 4 or 5 polars with good mass determined, and this is our next step. And IM Hercules is one of them.
Thank you, Claudia, for a nice talk. This is Pablo Rodrigues Hill. I think you can break the degeneracy if you know the mass, of course, of the white dwarf, and you can do that in line with your second question with a fully dynamical solution. And I'm telling this because one of my students is working on intermediate polars now, and we got dynamical solutions, fully dynamical solutions for 3 of them, including GK pair, SYRA. GK pair was already published, and that's those masses you should use, because these are very, very accurate, and we are going to publish more. So if you want, we can talk with you and Diego, and because it's difficult to do, because you know, the full dynamical thing, but we are getting good masses, I think, of the order of 1 solar mass. Even XYRA, if memory serves, is 1.2, 1.3, 1.27 solar masses. So that's great for you to put into the models, or maybe you can also explore another cooling mechanisms, like, I don't know, maybe Compton can have something to do, to say there, but
and the line cooling also.
Yeah,
line cooling is important in some objects. But one comment, for instance, I think the average mass of the magnetic cataclysmic variables comes from X-ray modeling.
Only for the magnetic ones.
For the magnetic ones. Yes, for the magnetic ones.
Yeah.
So.
But you know, if you know the mass by dynamical means.
Yes.
So you know you can break, you know, many degeneracies you have there. So that's pretty handy, and that's what we are working on now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Another question? No. So we thank Claudia and all the speakers from the morning session.